This is a plan by Emmanuel Macron to try to extend French influence in the region. Now, what is the Indo-Pacific axis? We have a map which is due to come up. Here it is, which shows the main countries involved. Right, well, Japan is where Emmanuel Macron is right now. It's here. But France also has strong interests in India, which is there, and Australia, which is here. Now, what sort of interests are those? Those are basically military interests. It has sold to India 36 Rafale fighter jets. It has signed a contract with Australia to provide 12 attack submarines. And with Japan, Emmanuel Macron is already discussing a 5-year plan to increase a naval partnership. Now, all of that is interesting for France because France, in the same region, is the only European Union country which has a series of overseas territories. And those overseas territories are very important for France. They all have names that everybody knows. They're names like New Caledonia. There are names like Wallis and Futuna, French Polynesia, and La Réunion. So why are they important? Because they are, some more facts and figures coming up, they are important because they are accounting for large amounts of exports and imports of France. 14% of French exports transit by the area, 17% of French imports transit from the area, and those territories alone account for 9 million square kilometres of French EEZ territory. What is EEZ? EEZ is Exclusive Economic Zone. That means France has access to fishing waters, natural resources over other countries in that area. So it's all very important for France. So Emmanuel Macron is very keen to build on all of this to extend France's influence in the region, not only strategically, but also for natural resources and for French imports and exports.
When you look there at the first map you showed us, Philip, you're saying France wants to extend its influence in the region. It's a region that is quite dominated by China. Is that also part of the plan, is to have an influence against China?
That is actually correct. Let's put this map back up again, shall we, with these countries on here. Now, China has been expressing its doubts about this, saying, OK, we've got India here, we have Australia there, we have Japan here, we have France here. Well, it feels a bit like China is being circled by these countries wanting to keep an eye on what exactly is going on in that region, principally for two reasons. The first one is that China is extending its influence principally into a range of islands which are situated around here called the Spratly Islands, which are disputed by several countries in the region. They are rich in natural resources, gas principally, and also oil. And China wants to extend its influence there. It's building false islands. It's also constructed a naval base that's being looked down on specifically by the Philippines and by Vietnam, which are next door, which have also claimed sovereignty over those islands. So I think France and the countries around there are keen to keep an eye on that, and also to counter against what they say is China's new Silk Roads project, the Belt and Road Initiative. China is also suspecting that France is trying to set up its own system by joining forces with Australia, India and Japan to counterbalance its expansionist plans in the region. All of this is not said above board, but behind the scenes, many French diplomats are saying this is exactly what France is doing, although its relationship with China, and Emmanuel Macron has said this several times, remains very friendly.
Well, speaking of relationships with China, of course, the G20 summit about to get underway in Japan, but a lot of focus on China's meeting with the US president at that. How do you think the US president is going to see this plan?
Well, that's a bit of a spanner in the works. That meeting coming up on Saturday morning at 11:30 local time in Osaka in Japan during the G20 summit meeting. The problem here is that, as I said, Emmanuel Macron has a very good relationship with Japan. Here he is with Shinzo Abe, the Japanese Prime Minister. And he has a very good relationship with Australia, like he does also with India. Where things tend now to get a little bit more difficult is with the United States, because, as we know, Donald Trump is in the middle of a trade war with China, whereas France doesn't really want to get involved in that trade war. It's now been dragged into a situation where it has two choices. Either A, it carries on with its friendly relationship with China against what the United States wants, or B, it goes against China and joins forces with Donald Trump. Where does it have more interest? basically with Donald Trump. So Emmanuel Macron is going to face a difficult situation this weekend, trying to work out exactly what his strategy is going to be. But he's being forced into a position where he's going to have to make a choice on all of this.
Okay, definitely.